15 failed doctors, but a black genius janitor's son reveals a hidden, life-changing truth. Malik stepped into the sterile world of the hospital, a universe he had admired from afar. He had always envisioned himself in a doctor's coat, bringing hope to those who felt lost. But today, all around him were whispers of disappointment. 15 doctors before him had failed to connect, failed to understand. Each one looked polished, yet their eyes held no warmth, just indifference. They treated patients like case studies, not lives. It was a lesson in heartbreak as heavy as the air in the waiting room. Those 15 failures were more than just numbers. They embodied Malik's struggle to bridge the gap between his dreams and his father's reality. Growing up as the janitor's son in a struggling neighborhood, Malik's world was filled with shadows of economic disparity and whispers of disdain. He saw the way doctors looked at his father, James, a hard-working janitor at this very hospital. They saw an invisible barrier, a mark of inferiority. But Malik saw something else, his father's quiet dignity, the way he held his head high despite the sneers. It ignited a fire in Malik, a determination to break that divide and change the narrative. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The urgency of a health crisis in the community stirred Malik. He felt it deep within him. With each passing day, friends and neighbors struggled against a backdrop of neglect. Malik couldn't just stand aside, he had a voice, and it was time to use it. At a community meeting, he trembled with equal parts trepidation and passion. The air thickened with skepticism as he spoke up. Could the janitor's son really make a difference? He faced the scorn of doubters as angry murmurs filled the room, but then, a personal blow rocked him. His friend, a bright young girl, fell victim to a doctor who failed to see beyond her white coat. Malik felt the anger bubble up, hot and intense, mixing with his heartbreak. How could they be so blindsided? The disconnect burrowed deeper into his heart, urging him to forge a path to compassion. He stood firm, rallying his community. This isn't just about us, this is about healing our own. Standing alongside his father at the next gathering, Malik's resolve was unwavering. The crowd buzzed with tension as he prepared to share insights about culturally sensitive needs and health workshops. But just as the moment brightened, a prominent doctor interjected, questioning his authority. Doubts swirled. Would they really listen? Could he be heard over their dismissive hum? Malik's heart raced. He glanced at his father, a silent pact exchanged between them. Would the community back him? Or would he find himself crushed under the weight of disbelief? Everything he fought for hung in the balance, and just like that, a defining moment loomed on the horizon. Malik inhaled deeply, ready to answer the call to transform pain into purpose. Malik swallowed hard. The whispers around him felt like chains, holding him back, but the fire in his heart spurred him on. People are dying, not because of a lack of doctors, but because those doctors don't understand us. His voice trembled but held firm as he drew in the crowd's attention. A few heads turned, and he noticed a woman in the back, tears welling in her eyes. She was holding a small child, her other children, silent, peering curiously at the scene unfolding. He took a breath and said, "We need to talk about health, but we need to talk about the culture behind it. We don't just need treatment, we need understanding." The words hung in the air, radiating urgency. The prominent doctor scoffed, a deep mocking laugh escaping him. "What do you think you know about medicine? You're just a janitor's son." The snickers from the crowd stung like sharp needles. Malik felt his chest tighten. That single statement felt like a punch to the gut, but instead of folding, he remembered the stories his father shared at dinner, stories of resilience against a system stacked high with prejudice. "It's true, I'm not a doctor," Malik shot back, his voice rising over the laughter, "but I've known pain firsthand, just as you've known privilege. He motioned towards his father, who stood tall and proud, the very embodiment of hard work and love. I've witnessed my father clean these halls while doctors turn a blind eye. I've watched him heal my family by simply being there when we needed him. Healing is more than just prescriptions, it's about respect. The room fell silent, the intensity of his words echoing like a bass drum. Was it possible? Could he truly reach these people? He spotted nods slowly beginning to ripple through the audience. It was as if a shift in the air suggested that perhaps Malik's voice had found a crack in their armor of indifference. Encouraged by their response, he pressed on. Imagine a health workshop filled with families just like ours, working together to understand not just the what but the why of health issues in our community. We could empower our people to take charge, to not only advocate for themselves but to educate each other. A murmur of hope surged like an unseen wave. Malik caught sight of his father's proud smile, the crinkles around his eyes the only affirmation he needed. Yet, the doctor who doubted him was still there, watching with crossed arms, unconvinced. That tension weighed on Malik, he could feel the weight of disbelief creeping back into the room. Let us do something together, Malik said, his heart racing. Let us invite the community to the hospital for a day dedicated to learning, doctors, patients, families, all of us. We can start shifting this narrative right here, right now. The crowd shifted again, some voices agreeing softly. But then the doctor's voice cut through, hard and cold. You think they'll listen? Malik stood firm, mightier than before. He knew what was at stake. With his heart pounding, he replied, if we take that step together, we can make them listen. For the first time, the murmurs turned into real discussions, shoulders shaking with anticipation. But doubts weren't far behind. Could one voice change anything? As the energy in the room fluctuated, Malik sensed he was on the edge of something monumental. Would this be the breakthrough he needed? Just as he felt the tide turn, a chilling phone call disrupted the possibilities unfolding. Malik's heart sank. It was a neighbor on the line, voice shaking, sharing news that could reshape everything he had just started. Malik, it's Sarah, she needs your help now. Panic washed over him. What happened? His resolve shattered into pieces, but he couldn't ignore it. As he signaled to his father, the weight of the moment loomed larger than ever. What did this mean for their plans? Would fear delay their progress? The answer seemed to pulse right in front of him, but the urgency clouded his mind. Malik took a breath. The call for help was louder than the doubts that haunted him. He had to act, for Sarah and for every soul that had been suffering. The path ahead was unclear, but one truth was crystal clear: Malik was ready to step deeper into his fight, one desperate step at a time. But as he rushed toward the door, the question echoed in his mind: what awaited him on the other side? Malik burst out of the community center, his heart racing and his mind a flurry of thoughts. The echoes of his speech still rang in his ears, but now they were drowned out by the urgent plea from Sarah. He sprinted toward his neighbor's house, the cool air biting at his skin. The world blurred around him, all that mattered was getting to her. As he approached the small brick home they had lived in for generations, dread pooled in his stomach. What could have happened? Sarah was always the strong one. She took care of everyone, her laughter a balm in the neighborhood. Panic pushed him faster. Arriving at her doorstep, he knocked frantically. The door swung open, revealing a tear-streaked face that sent a jolt of fear through him. Sarah stood there, holding her little brother tightly, her shaky breath betraying her calm demeanor. "Malik, thank goodness you're here," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's Mom, she hasn't been able to wake up." Malik's heart fell. He pushed past the door and rushed inside, where the faint scent of burnt spices hung in the air. The living room was dimly lit, cluttered with toys and the remnants of yesterday's dinner. In the back, he could hear soft whimpers, the kind that twisted at your insides. That he turned to Sarah, whose eyes pleaded for reassurance. "What happened?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "We thought she was just tired," she replied, a trembling edge to her words. But she won't respond no matter what I do. I don't know how to help her. Malik nodded, swallowing hard. He didn't have all the medical knowledge, but he felt an urgent pull, the kind that reminded him of being thrust into the spotlight just moments before. Let me see her, he said firmly. They moved quietly through the narrow hall to the bedroom. His mother lay on the bed, pale and motionless, her chest barely rising. The sight knocked the breath from Malik's lungs. Memories surged: her laughter, her gentle touch, how she would make everything feel all right. Panic began to rise again, threatening to choke him. Sarah looked at him, her eyes wide with fear, too young to shoulder this burden. What do we do? I can't lose her, Malik. Malik hesitated, his heart racing, yet he felt something inside him ignite. He couldn't let fear take over. He took a deep breath, focusing on the basics his father had taught him about health and community. We need to get help, but first, let us try to wake her up. Guiding Sarah's little hand, he instructed her to gently shake their mother's shoulder. Mom! It's us. Please wake up. He joined her, his voice rising with emotion, urgency coloring every word. Sometimes, he remembered, it just takes a little persistence and love. He tried to squeeze her hand, willing strength into it, praying for a flicker of response. Some small sign that there was still a flame inside. Slowly, her eyelids fluttered, and with a muted groan, she stirred. Mom! Malik exclaimed, hope igniting within him like a spark in the dark. What? Her voice was soft, barely a whisper. What's wrong? Tears flooded Sarah's eyes, relief blooming along with confusion. You scared us. She cried, unable to contain herself. You've been asleep for so long. Malik knelt beside the bed, his heart pounding with gratitude and disbelief. We're here, we've got you, he said, his voice steadying her wavering spirit. You're all right, just breathe. We just need to sit with you. Concern twisted in his gut. He knew this wasn't over. She needed help, real help. But for now, they were together, grappling with this narrowing storm of uncertainty. As he glanced back at Sarah, a thought struck him: if they could overcome this moment, igniting whispers of health within their community, what else could they conquer? Malik pulled out his phone, the weight of responsibility heavy in his hands. It would take more than just one voice to spark change, it would take many. But just then, as he dialed for help, a chill crept through his spine like a warning bell. What if the attention they received wouldn't be enough? Would they truly listen to him and his family? The struggle weighed on him like bricks. What if this was only the beginning of something much bigger? Suddenly, he was fueled not just by concern for Sarah and their mother, but for a sense of purpose that seemed to swell with every heartbeat. Yet, as the call connected, a new fear gripped him, one that arose not just from their immediate situation but the ever-growing battle he sensed ahead. Who can I count on? He thought, the weight of that question heavy in the air. As he spoke to the emergency operator, he couldn't shake the feeling that decisions made today could ripple across every aspect of his community. He stood up, bolstered by hope amid the uncertainty. A journey lay ahead, and he could feel the ground shifting beneath him. But what awaited him on this path? Would they find their voices together, or would the challenges crush them? Malik's hands shook as he pressed the phone to his ear. The voice on the line was calm, reassuring, but to him, it sounded distant like static in a storm. He leaned against the wall, keeping one eye on Sarah and their mother, still caught in the haze of confusion. Help is on the way, the operator said. Can you tell me what happened? I can't. No one really knows. His voice cracked. How could he explain what felt so surreal? One minute they were all fine, the next, darkness had settled over them like a heavy blanket. He glanced at Sarah, whose little brother sat on the floor, playing with a toy, oblivious to the chaos surrounding him. We just need help. Malik's voice held a thread of urgency. Please hurry. As he hung up, Malik felt a spark of strength flicker within him. He wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans and moved back to the bed. He needed to stay grounded, to care for his family. His mother's eyes had regained some focus, though the familiar warmth was covered in a fog of confusion. "Mom, can you look at me?" Malik urged gently. "Can you tell me your name? Why is it so loud?" She mumbled, her brow furrowing. Malik shared a glance with Sarah. "It's okay, Mom. It's just us. We're here." He squeezed her hand, pouring every ounce of hope into that simple gesture, but as Malik sat there, a foreboding thought flickered in the back of his mind: what if this was just the beginning? The flicker of courage he felt clenched into something darker. He could sense change swirling around him like leaves in a gust. What if his voice trailed off, barely a whisper? What if we can't take care of Mom? What if something worse happens? Suddenly, his phone buzzed again, pulling him from his spiraling thoughts. A message from a group chat lit up the screen: "We need a leader. Who will stand up for us?" Malik's stomach knotted. The vastness of the community's needs weighed on him. He saw them struggle, them suffer, like how his mother fought valiantly to provide for their family with pride. Yet right now, he felt small and unprepared. Would anyone listen to a kid like him, standing up for his family? "Malik," Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. "Do you think she'll be okay?" He turned to her, seeing the fear swimming in her eyes. "Yeah, she will. We just need to take it one step at a time." But even as he spoke, he wasn't so sure. Moments stretched into painful silence. Malik turned to the window where the early evening sun poured in, casting golden rays across the room. He thought of the speeches he gave earlier, the fire in his belly when he spoke for the community. It had felt powerful, but now that fire was flickering, threatened by doubt. His mother stirred slightly, drawing his gaze back. "Malik? Is that you?" she murmured, confusion lacing her voice. "Yes, Mom. Right here," he said softly. He could see the shadows fading from her face. But another thought washed over him, a steady pulse within the chaos. This was about more than just today. This was about tomorrow, the people around him, his family, and how they would face whatever came next. "Malik." A voice called from the front. It was a neighbor. Relief washed over him, but the anxiety tightened its grip again. He had waited for change, but wasn't sure he could step into the role he felt calling to him. He rushed to the door, opening it to find Mrs. Jenkins standing there, the weight of concern etched across her face. "Is everything all right?" Malik searched for the right words, but he was uncertain and vulnerable. "We need help, and there's more to it than I can say right now." His heart raced. Mrs. Jenkins nodded, stepping inside with determination in her eyes. "Let us figure this out together." Malik's heart swelled within his chest, a conduit of hope bonding him to the community. If only they could work together, they might bend the tide of despair others faced. As they gathered in that small bedroom, cherishing the flickering candle of hope his mother had ignited in them, Malik realized, every step moving forward would be part of something greater, and he might just be the spark they needed. But what would he have to sacrifice to become that leader they were looking for? The storm was just beginning to brew, and Malik braced himself. Was he really ready to step forward? Would he have the strength to guide them through the upcoming struggles? The chatter of concern faded into the background as Malik closed the door behind Mrs. Jenkins. The room felt smaller now, filled with anticipation and worry. He could feel the energy shifting, strangers transitioning into allies. Malik wasn't sure he was the leader they needed, but somehow, he found courage in the collective hope that filled the space. "First, we need to take a deep breath," Malik said, all too aware that he was talking more to himself than to anyone else. He looked around at the worried faces. "We'll need each other now more than ever." Mrs. Jenkins took a seat beside his mother, her hands gently moving through his mother's hair as if trying to smooth out the chaos swirling in the room. While Malik appreciated her gesture, the reserved part of him felt a pang of unease. What if their kindness couldn't mend broken spirits? Deep down, he was still that young boy with insecurities, the weight of the world on his shoulders feeling heavier than ever. Malik, we should check on other families, Mrs. Jenkins suggested, her voice steady and strong. They may be facing what you and your family are going through. It was a practical thought, but fear gripped Malik's heart. What if he couldn't help them? What if he led them astray instead? Before he could respond, Sarah piped up, her voice small yet fierce. Can we do something for Mom first? Maybe we can fix her tea or something. Malik's heart warmed at her innocence. Yes. Mom needed care first. In moments of chaos, the simplest gestures could be most powerful. Okay, let us do that, he agreed, walking over to the small kitchen area, clearing his head from the storm. He grabbed the kettle and filled it with water, his hands steady this time. As the kettle began to hum, he turned back to see Mrs. Jenkins leaning in closer to her. Liz, I'm here. You're okay. We're all here. His mother's eyes flickered, and for a brief moment, she seemed to drift back home. Malik sighed. Maybe they could pull through this like they always had, their family fighting against the odds. While he waited for the water to boil, Malik's thoughts drifted like leaves on the wind. This was more than just a family crisis, it would stretch into the community. How many lives lay entangled in struggle? They weren't alone. It was clearer now than ever. Can I help with something? A shy voice asked from the doorway. It was Marcus, one of his friends. Malik had never seen him take one step forward like this before, always retreating into the shadows during meetings. But today, he stood boldly, a light of possibility shining from within. What can you do? Malik inquired, the timbre of his voice growing strong, catching the echo of leadership. Anything, Marcus replied, determination blending with a hint of fear on his brow. Just tell me where to start. Malik felt something shift inside him, a fire reigniting. Help Sarah with tea. Make it special. She deserves that, he instructed, and as Marcus moved to assist, Malik's heart lightened. He realized it didn't just take one person to spark change. It took a team, a community with shared strength. As the kettle whistled, he poured the hot water over tea leaves, closing his eyes for just a moment, letting hope seep into every droplet. This was only the beginning. They would face it all. House visits, community gatherings, everything that came next. His heartbeat quickened. They could do this together. Yet, deep down, Malik sensed a looming question, an unanswered riddle that hung over him like a dark cloud. What hidden truths lay beneath the surface of their struggles? And what would he uncover as he stepped fully into this uncharted territory? Standing there, a blend of warmth and uncertainty enveloping him, Malik took a deep breath. It was time to ignite change, but at what cost? The tea brewed, filling the room with a soothing aroma. For a moment, it felt like a safe haven against the storm brewing outside. Malik watched Sarah and Marcus carefully stir milk and sugar into the steaming cups, their small hands inching closer together in camaraderie. This small act of kindness, so simple yet profound, ignited a flicker of hope inside him. Here, Mom. We made this for you, Malik said softly, bringing the cup to her, the steam curling up toward her face. Mrs. Jenkins gently nudged Malik's mother, encouraging her to take a sip. Malik's heart raced as he held his breath, waiting for a response. His mother, with dazed eyes, took a tentative sip, her brow furrowing slightly. But as the warmth settled inside her, an almost imperceptible calm enveloped her features. It's nice, she whispered, her voice a fragile wisp of sound. It was a small victory, but for Malik, it felt monumental. As laughter bubbled from Sarah and Marcus, the tension in the room began to dissipate. They were finding joy even in these heavy moments. That's when Malik knew that they could build something strong. They would gather others, people who cared just as much, who loved fiercely. Okay, he announced, trying to sound more confident than he felt. We should split into pairs. Marcus, you and I will check on the Sanchez family since they live nearby. Mrs. Jenkins, can you and Sarah look in on the Taylors? Mrs. Jenkins nodded, the warmth of resolve flashing in her eyes. We can do that, Malik. I know the Taylors are worried about their son. Let us offer them support. Malik glanced at Sarah, who was clutching the empty teacup. Her determination reminded him of their mother. She was small but fierce. You can be a light today, Sarah. Just like you did with the tea. Don't hold back. As they prepared to leave, a sudden sense of purpose swelled in Malik. This was more than just checking in on friends. It was about being a part of something bigger. He felt like a thread in an intricate tapestry, woven together with each person they would touch that day. Malik. Marcus called out just as they were about to step outside. Are you really sure we can do this? What if it gets worse? Malik turned, meeting Marcus's eyes full of uncertainty. The sincerity in his voice was a reminder of the weight they carried, but Malik forced a smile. Together, we can handle anything. Even if it gets tougher, we won't face it alone. With that, they stepped into the world outside. The sun had peeked through the clouds, rays filtering through the branches like blessings. Malik inhaled deeply, feeling a weight lift. They were walking into uncertainty, but he knew, in his heart, that they had purpose now that as they navigated the familiar streets, they passed neighbors who waved and offered nods of acknowledgement. Each greeting felt like a thread of connection, weaving them into the fabric of the community. But with every step, Malik's thoughts flickered back to that haunting question: what truths lay hidden beneath the smiles and small talk? What struggles were they really facing? He felt a shiver run down his spine, the impending weight pressing down in a way that felt actionable. By the time they reached the Sanchez house, the urgency of his below-the-surface once again loomed. Ready? Marcus asked, his face taut with anticipation. Malik nodded, heart thrumming. Whatever we find, we'll face it together. But as they approached the door, a voice rustled from within, the sound of an argument. His stomach knotted. What if this wasn't just a family crisis? What if they stumbled into chaos far beyond what they were prepared to handle? Taking a deep breath, Malik raised his hand to knock, heart pounding. What awaited them on the other side? Malik's knuckles met the rickety wood of the door, sending a sharp rap into the heavy air. In that instant, the arguing inside abruptly stopped. Silence wrapped around them, so thick it pressed against his ears. He held his breath, the uncertainty creeping back in with a chill that settled deep in his bones. Malik? Marcus whispered, barely audible. It felt like they were standing on a ledge, ready to leap into unknown depths. Without a word, Malik nodded and knocked again, more firmly this time. The door creaked open an inch, revealing the worried face of Mrs. Sanchez, her brow furrowed, eyes darting past them as if she expected someone else. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice tight. We just wanted to check on you and the family, Malik replied, his voice steady despite the tremor inside. Is everything okay? Mrs. Sanchez paused, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. After a moment, she opened the door wider. I'm sorry. Come in please. The invitation felt more like a plea that as Malik stepped inside, the weight of the atmosphere enveloped him. The Sanchez living room was cluttered, filled with toys and piles of laundry. A family portrait hung crookedly on the wall, capturing a moment of laughter that felt worlds away. The argument resumed, sharper this time, voices raising from a room further back. Are they fighting? Marcus whispered, glancing toward the source of the noise. I think so, Malik said, feeling something heavy settle in his stomach. What had they walked into? Mrs. Sanchez was glancing nervously at the closed door leading deeper into the house. It's been a rough couple of days, she admitted, biting her lip. I thought maybe it would be better, but the door creaked open wider, spilling light into the hallway. A tall man stepped out. Mr. Sanchez, his face flushed, hands clenching at his sides. What do you kids want? He barked, his eyes darting between Malik and Marcus like they were intruders. Malik felt his heart race, words fumbling in his throat. We just came to check on you guys. Check on us? Mr. Sanchez echoed, incredulity lining his voice. We don't need pity from you. Stop! Mrs. Sanchez interjected, her voice quaking with anger and despair. These kids are just trying to help. The tension thickened, swirling around Malik like fog. He could feel his pulse quickening as the room started to spin. What's really going on? He finally asked, trying to infuse calm into the chaos. We're friends. You can talk to us. Mrs. Sanchez met his gaze, and for a brief moment, he saw a flicker of vulnerability that made his heart ache. It's just been hard, money's been tight. Javier he's not well, and Mr. Sanchez looked ready to explode. It's not their problem. They shouldn't be here. This is none of their business. Maybe it is. Malik blurted out, his voice rising involuntarily. People care about you. We want to help. Mrs. Sanchez's eyes welled with tears, a deep sadness spilling over. Javier lost his job. I just don't know how we're going to manage. The argument melted away at her words, leaving a raw, vulnerable silence. Malik felt a surge of determination. We can figure something out, he urged, stepping forward. Together. We've all been there, we know what it's like to struggle. As Mrs. Sanchez clasped her hands, desperation mingled with hope in her expression. But then a quiet voice pierced through the haze, slick and polished against the tension. Who said you could just waltz in here and pretend you can solve our problems? A voice taunted from the back, slowly revealing itself to belong to Javier, emerging with an angry glare that sent chills down Malik's spine. The weight of their unresolved tension hung heavily in the air, but Malik knew they couldn't back down now. They needed to navigate this complex family crisis and find the light amidst the darkness. Let us talk, Malik said, his voice steady but filled with urgency, not knowing if it would make a difference or plunge them deeper into chaos. But at that moment, he understood the stakes were high, and lives were on the line. Would they find a way through this? Or was the truth darker than they were ready to face? Javier stepped fully into the doorway, arms crossed, his stance rigid. The tension in the room snapped like a tight string. Malik searched his eyes, looking for any sign of the boy he used to play basketball with. This wasn't the same Javier who once laughed freely, this Javier carried weights Malik couldn't fathom. Look, we just want to help, Malik said, trying to keep his voice calm despite the storm brewing inside. He took a small step forward, determined not to back down. I know things seem bad right now, but we can figure something out. A scoff escaped Javier's lips. You don't even know what you're talking about. You think it's just gonna get better because you care. What can you possibly do? Malik opened his mouth to respond, but Mrs. Sanchez interjected again, her voice rising once more with urgency. Javier, please. Talking won't make it worse. They're here because they care about us. Javier's expression faltered just a bit, uncertainty creeping in. Caring doesn't pay the bills, Mom. He shot back, his voice laced with bitterness. The crack in his armor was evident, and Malik seized the moment. Maybe not, he replied softly. But I know people who could help. I can reach out. I can ask for support. The room fell quiet, each eye flickering between Malik and Javier. It wasn't just the words, it was the desperation behind them. They had all felt it at some point. What do you know about it? Javier said, his voice lowering slightly. There was a hint of vulnerability beneath his bravado. You don't live like we do. You don't have to worry about food or where to sleep. Malik felt his heart tighten. It was true, he didn't know the depths of their struggle. But he also knew the power of community. I might not know, but I do want to understand, he offered, trying to pierce through the wall Javier built around himself. We can face this together. No one has to go through it alone. Mrs. Sanchez wiped away a tear, her eyes gleaming with a fragile spark of hope. We really could use a little help. Just hearing another voice, another idea. Javier shifted, his shoulders relaxing ever so slightly. What do you think we need? He asked, the edge of his frustration melting into curiosity. Malik hesitated, feeling the enormity of the moment weigh on him. We could reach out to local charities. There might be food banks or even job placement programs. I could talk to my dad, he knows people who can help. Javier's gaze flickered, uncertainty burning behind his eyes. And what if it's not enough? It's a start, Malik replied, hoping to coax some positivity from his friend. Even small steps can lead to bigger ones. Silence engulfed the room again, but this time it felt different. The walls seemed to lower a bit. Let me think about it, Javier finally said, his voice softer, less guarded. Malik exhaled, relief washing over him as he realized they might actually get through to him. This moment felt fragile yet electric, balanced on the edge of possibility. That's all I ask, Malik said, wanting to push for more but knowing that patience was necessary, just like growth took time. The conversation shifted subtly, and Mrs. Sanchez added, to be honest, I've felt so lost. I don't want this to tear us apart. Can we really come together as a family? Maybe, Javier murmured, scratching at the back of his head, confused but willing to listen. As they stood in the flickering half-light of the room, Malik sensed a glimmer of hope beginning to spark, a connection forming where there hadn't been one before. They were still tangled in darkness, yes, but at least they might find a way toward the light together. Just then, a loud crash echoed from another room, instantly shattering the fragile moment. Malik's heart sank as he turned toward the sound, dread bubbling inside him. What now? He felt the urgency grow. A new threat loomed, a pivotal shift waiting just around the corner. Would they emerge stronger from this, or would it tear them apart? Malik's heart raced as he darted toward the source of the crash, his mind a whirlwind of anxiety. Was it an accident, or something worse? As he entered the adjacent room, he found a broken chair sprawled across the floor, its legs splintered. The scene felt eerily quiet except for the faint hum of the flickering overhead light. Javier. Malik called, hoping his friend hadn't followed him in. The last thing he wanted was for Javier to retreat even further into his anger because of something trivial. He turned, half expecting to see the teen hovering in the doorway, but there was something about the tension he felt should seep into the room. Instead, he heard footsteps behind him, slow and heavy. It was Javier, his expression dark again, his fists now clenched tighter than before. What happened? Javier asked, scanning the room as he stepped cautiously inside. Malik swallowed hard, his instincts kicking in. Just a chair fell. I didn't mean to startle you. Javier's jaw twitched, frustration flickering across his features. It's like everything in this damn house keeps falling apart. Malik hesitated, realizing Javier wasn't just talking about a chair. There was so much more weighing on him: family, bills, responsibility. I know it's tough, he said, searching for a way to bridge the gap. But we can figure this out together, right? We can find a way to hold it all together. Everyone keeps saying that, Javier shot back, a hint of desperation in his voice. But what if it's not enough? What if we fail? Malik took a step closer, wanting to break through the wall of doubt. You're not alone in this. It feels like all the pressure is on you, but it doesn't have to be. It's okay to let people in. Javier's shoulders sagged, the fight drained from him for a brief moment. I don't want to be a burden. What if I dragged you down with me? There was a vulnerability in his voice that Malik had rarely seen, and it tugged at him. Trust me, man, Malik replied, his tone earnest. We're all dealing with something heavy. But the weight doesn't have to crush us. It can lift us if we lean on each other. As if on cue, Mrs. Sanchez entered the room, concern etched on her face. Boys? Is everything okay? Malik exchanged a glance with Javier. The silent understanding hung in the air. The reality of their situation was almost unbearable, yet here they were, together. Yeah, we're fine, Javier said, his voice softer. It was a small step, but a step nonetheless. Mrs. Sanchez walked over and placed a hand on Javier's shoulder, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I know this is hard. I'm just as scared as you are. But we need to support each other now more than ever. Malik watched as Javier's facade began to crack just a little more. The tension in his posture lessened, and Malik noticed the faintest shimmer of hope creeping into his eyes. Just then, Malik's phone buzzed in his pocket, a message from his father. He opened it and froze. I might have something urgent news about a program that can help with your situation. His heart pounded in excitement and fear. What does it say? Javier asked, suddenly intrigued. It looks like there's a community outreach program, Malik replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. They provide resources for families struggling to make ends meet. It might be our best shot. What if it's a joke? Javier muttered bitterly, but Malik could see the flicker of cautious hope behind his doubt. It's not. We have to try, Malik insisted, determination flooding his voice. We owe it to ourselves. This family deserves a chance. Malik felt the urgency swell around them, and yet he knew they were standing on a pivotal ledge, ready to either leap or fall back into hopelessness. Would they take the leap together, or would fear drag them down? As they all stood there, surrounded by their doubts and hopes, the air thickened with anticipation. It was one decision, one leap of faith that could change everything. Then, outside, they heard shouting. Voices raised in anger echoed from the street, pulling the attention of the whole family. What now? Malik felt his pulse quicken once more, knowing the path ahead was just becoming more tumultuous. Would the next moment unite them or unravel everything? Malik felt the tension in the room spike as the voices outside grew closer. He glanced around, the panic reflecting in his friend's eyes and in his mother's fragile gaze. What could he do now? He was used to speaking up, but this moment felt heavier. Stay here, he urged softly, wanting to shield his family but also feeling an unwavering pull to discover what was happening. He swiftly opened the door, stepping onto the porch with his heart pounding a staccato rhythm in his chest. That in front of him, a small crowd had gathered in the street, animated voices wrapping around his thoughts like a thick fog. He recognized some faces, neighbors wrestling with frustration over the same struggles he and his friends faced. Amidst the commotion, he caught sight of a young mother defending her right to get help for her kids. They don't care about us, she shouted, her hands flying in the air with passion. They only come around when it's convenient. Determination surged through Malik, a sense of shared pain, a collective voice rising in clarity. It was about so much more than just one family's troubles, it was a community screaming for acknowledgement and understanding. His pulse raced as he stepped closer to the chaos, catching the skeptical frowns of the doctors crossing the street, their indifference too palpable. Listen! Malik shouted, raising his voice above the din. We're tired of being ignored. You're not just professionals, you are our neighbors, our community. The murmurs quieted for a moment, surprised eyes turning toward him. The weight of the moment hung between fear and empowerment. Exactly. A voice from the crowd chimed in. The support felt electric. Malik's heart ignited with hope. We need to work together, he continued. We're all one family. He sensed his father's presence behind him, an unwavering force that propelled him forward. Another round of nods rippled through the crowd. Let us meet with the doctors, someone shouted from the back, the idea taking shape in the space between them. Malik nodded vigorously, taking in their expressions, the glimmers of agreement spreading like wildfire. He could feel it, they were ready to confront the divide. Let us hold them accountable, Malik urged. Let us talk about the workshops, the consultations that take our voices into account, that consider our struggles, our culture. With each word, momentum rallied within him, piercing through the skepticism that had held them captive for so long. Let us show them that we deserve to be heard. The crowd began to chant, voices rising stronger, merging into a symphony of hope. We deserve to be heard. It was a chant that echoed through the neighborhood, igniting not just Malik's spirit but that of everyone present. As he looked at the faces illuminated by the late afternoon sun, he realized he wasn't just the janitor's son anymore. He was part of something bigger. He turned back toward his family, catching his mother's eye. She was no longer a flicker of uncertainty. There was strength reflected in her gaze. "Mom," he called as he faced her, "this is for us, this is the moment we change everything." She nodded, tears shimmering in the corners of her eyes but now accompanied by a radiant smile, hope breaking through the barriers built around them. Malik felt invincible, not because he had all the answers but because he knew the strength of community, the belief that together they would unravel the knots of indifference. Malik raised his voice once more. "Will you stand with us?" A thunderous cheer erupted from the crowd, filling him with profound joy and determination. This was it. They were not just rising against apathy, they were weaving themselves into a new narrative. A narrative built on understanding, respect, and compassion. As words of encouragement flowed and ideas sprouted like seeds in spring, Malik felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. Everyone had a part to play. As he stood among them, heart full, he sensed a shift within their community, a blossoming resilience that mirrored the flowers just starting to bud in the nearby park. And as the sun began to set, casting warm hues across the horizon, Malik leaned into the knowledge that their journey was only just beginning. There would be hurdles, maybe even heartbreak. But together, they could embrace challenges head-on. They could create workshops, draw in more support, and become a beacon for healing along the way. Just then, as they collectively decided to march forward, determined to instigate a meeting with the hospital management, Malik's phone buzzed again in his pocket. It was a message from his father, this time filled with resources and contact numbers, a network of possibilities reaching out to link arms with them. Malik smiled, heart swelling with pride. "I see it now," he thought in that moment, a future built not on the shadows of past failures but on the power of voices united. From a janitor's son to a community leader, Malik had stepped into a role that had always felt distant. As the night descended, the spark ignited with purpose. Malik knew one truth: change was coming, and it was woven through the hearts of everyone who dared to believe. Now is the time to take action. If you believe in the power of community and change, subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to show your support, it truly makes a difference. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.